mobile. The second day, who work as a server. You're going to be fine. If you've got a fever, just get it checked. If you're not sick, we don't need everybody to stay at home. Yeah, right. He was not worried about his family or his older